Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Shafiu Suleiman. Thank you for staying with us. There's a growing concern over Nigeria's current political trajectory, taking a dangerous dimension with ethnic and religious fault lines becoming more glaring months before the 2023 general elections. The emergence of what many termed a third force or alternative political party and the Obi dirty ticket, and the audacious choice of Muslim ticket by the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, many say are largely responsible for the emerging political dynamics. On Daily Politics, we ask, where could these politics of identity, religious and regional politicking take Nigeria to? How can the current trajectory further inflame the already polarized political atmosphere? Is there some sort of elite consensus around the need for a paradigm shift in the political space? These and many more questions will form part of our discussions. And our guest is none other than the Vice Presidential candidate of the Labour Party, former Senator Dr. Yusuf Baba Ahmed. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir, and apologies for the delay.
We appreciate, right. Despite the situation, I understand you had to, okay, attend to some issues. Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure, right. And honor.
Okay, let's go straight to, the issues. Let's start with, what we just talked about now, the visit, if you like, of your principal to the Dunamis prayer session, has generated some sort of concerns. And this is also coming at a time Nigerians are looking at the configuration around, the various candidates. Some say the Peter Obi dirty ticket might likely be, a ticket of the Southeast extraction. Some say it could be, one religious organization's ticket, the CAN, for instance. Some also look at it as, a ticket for, the coming together of certain minorities, especially in the north, who felt also marginalized in the area. In terms of religion, the Afenifere, all sorts of, permutations around it. How do you feel, as a running mate to Peter Obi, when you see all of this, being peddled around?
I feel very comfortable and I feel energized. But most of all, I feel the solution to Nigeria's many problems are on course to being achieved.
Okay.
From your questions, there is need to go back and ask a few more.
Okay.
Really, what is politics about? Everybody has to calm down. Things are so hot in Nigeria. And what happens when things are hot? People tend to lose a bit of touch with reality. They tend to lose touch with senses. And at this point in time, I'm saying we're not part of that bandwagon that are willfully overheating the system. We are those asking everybody to calm down. Please, let us just stop for a minute and ask this question. What is politics about? Politics is about making life good. Politics is about living good national lives through good governance. That is it. It is, of course, a lot more complicated than the way I'm saying. Politics is not about promoting your faith. If you are promoting your faith, there's a completely different line, channel, life you should be living. You should be speaking with completely different people. Also, we should calm down and look at history of mankind itself, whenever you have a community that reaches 1 million, it begins to split.
Okay. So it's
splits.
normal.
It is normal.
Right.
You can never have such a large number uniform.
Yeah. But is it?
This is, you see, there are natural forces in the diversity of Nigeria. What Labour is doing right now, people like me, is that if politics is really about using good governance to ensure a good national life, if this is what it's about, and all of us now are able to come down to understand what politics is about, then for God's sake, clean out those imaginary lines.
Okay.
I come from a state in Kaduna where we have about 15 different languages or ethnic groups, as we will say. This is excellent. And in the last 60, 70 years, you know, we've been in one nation, then North Central states, Northern state, North Central state, Kaduna state, old Kaduna state and present Kaduna state. And we're still forging ahead. We can do better.
Yeah. Talking about cleaning the imaginary lines, you know,
Yes.
some find it a little bit difficult, you know, looking at perhaps the support base.
Thank you.
Is it?
Thank you.
Right.
Now, listen to this. From road construction to the second Niger Bridge, to building airports and seaports and rail tracks, and all those things, stopping the killings, forging unity, improving education, building, all those are easy. People like me, while we're resting, sleeping, they are building for us. Like Peter Obi, he ran a state that was functional wherever he was. Those are the soft, easy, low-lying fruits. You know what is difficult in politics? The heart of the human being. The psyche of citizens. That is the most difficult part. In fact, if there is anything that stands between us and peace and prosperity, it's our hearts.
Okay.
Because, listen. There is abundant wealth in Nigeria. There's abundant human resource and knowledge and capacity to the extent that other countries come from their countries, open hotels and say, come, we want to, they take away our expertise. All over the world, Nigerian expertise is making those countries what they are. What is stopping us from our greatness are our hearts. That is the most difficult.
Yeah. Okay.
And let me finish.
Right.
What is in our hearts that is making it so difficult? A natural detestation, if there is such a word. I don't want to use the word hatred. We don't hate each other. But a natural detestation, fear, suspicion, and worst of all, pride. There is certain pride and ego tied to what is going on now.
Okay.
Again, I want to go real far back in history.
Right. Okay.
No. You have to listen to me.
You can go on and on.
No. You must listen to this.
Well,
you must listen
because of
to
the
this.
limited time we have.
There was a great Muslim warrior called Salah ad-Din.
Al-Ayyubi.
Yes, and even though some people say that he won Jerusalem, the fact of the matter is he negotiated Jerusalem because of the leader then was such a powerful figure, and they realized they couldn't win. They had to negotiate. Now, at the end of the negotiation, the leader of Jerusalem, after Salah was rising, he said, by the way, what is Jerusalem worth? And that is when Salah-ad-Din realized, yes, what is Jerusalem worth? And then he looked back and said, nothing. Yeah. By that he's saying our pride. The pride in our hearts that it must be us it must be our faith, it must be our ethnic group and all those, is that poison in our heart that is making us to dislike others.
Yeah.
Now, in others, there is competence, there's capacity, there's everything. And I think it is about time to agree to answer the name that we're Nigerians. Let me conclude. Peter Obi is a Nigerian. Deti Baba Ahmed is a Nigerian.
Right.
Even though I paid very, very high price for saying that, but look, those who are attacking me, I want them to know. As for the ethnic one, I forgive them. As for the religious one, I'm a strong, staunch Muslim, proud one.
Yeah.
I have been involved in promoting Islam all my life. I come from a family.
Right.
For them to do what they have done, I want them to come and apologize, and I will forgive.
Yeah, but
Okay?
yes.
So
But
I have paid a very high price. I have started paying a high price. Peter Obi is a Nigerian. I'm a Nigerian, and the project ahead of us now is rescuing Nigeria, and we're going to do it.
okay, so talking about the Nigerian project,
Yes.
and the fact that yes, we are a Nigerian, Peter Obi is a Nigerian, but you talked about the fault lines, you talked about the suspicions, the mutual suspicions, among Nigerians, and why that is happening. The underlying factors are there for everyone to know. I mean, to see the rising level of poverty in the country, hunger, and so on and so forth. But Nigerians would be interested in how you're trying, what you are doing in your own capacity to mend this fence, perhaps to bring people together, to erase those, fault lines that
I can answer your question.
Right.
The best thing that can happen to Nigerian unity today is to elect Peter Obi as president.
But how can he be trusted, some would say?
He has been trusted before.
Yeah.
Federal government of Nigeria agencies under the Central Bank of Nigeria followed through everything and established a bank and became its chairman. He left business and became a governor. He is trusted. How can he be trusted? Because he has people like me around.
Thank you very much for staying with us. It's still Daily Politics. And today our talking point is addressing Nigeria's power sector, challenges in Nigeria's power sector. And just like I said earlier, we have in the studio Engineer Farouk Yabo, who is the Director Investment and also Sector Development in the Ministry of Power. He's also one of the newly appointed, permanent secretaries. He is here with us to share his thoughts. Once again, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much again, Malan Shafiu.
Right. Okay. Just like it was captured in the introduction. Before the unbundling of the power sector, Nigeria has been, realizing energy, especially power, has been elusive, despite investment to the tune of around $2 billion annually. Now that we have the sector unbundled, Nigerians have had a lot of expectations on the power sector, especially your ministry is central to delivering this power to the end users. In summary, how would you describe the change in name, some will say, from the power holding company to, the now having electricity distribution companies, generation companies, and the transmission company of Nigeria?
Okay, thank you very much, Malan Shafiu. I think it's not just in name. You see, before 2005,
Right.
the power industry has been what we call an integrated monopoly, simply meaning that the generation, transmission, and distribution are in one single entity. And it's also highly monopolized in the sense that it's owned by the same entity, which is the government. And before then, the main legal instrument that is running the power sector has been the erstwhile Cap 106.
Okay.
And then also Eastwhile Cap 258, which is the Nigerian National Electric Power Authority Act, and National Electricity Supply and National Electricity Installation Regulation. Now, those acts restrict anybody from coming to play in the power sector. And so, unfortunately, it also became very clear over the years from the 80s up to the late 90s around the world that for any country to succeed in expanding its power sector in a sustainable long-term way, you need to allow the private sector to come in. And so that gave birth to the National Electric Power Policy of 2001, which gave the framework under which the sector will be open for anybody to legally put money in, because clearly government can't do it alone. So that was a major achievement when Nigeria happens to pass the law. And from 2005, when the law was passed by the National Assembly in a joint session of Senate and House, in a very phenomenal way, because this is something that many countries have tried to do, but they could not do it because of the intricacies involved, particularly the labor union issues. So, but having passed the law, it took us up to 2013, precisely 1st of November 2013, to actually be able to sell out or to allow for private sector to come. And there was a lot of hopes, a lot of enthusiasm from all over the world. In fact, I remember South Africans were saying, if Nigeria can do it, we also can do it. At so many meetings.
So like a pace setter. So
yeah, it's a pace setter for the continent, because obviously nobody has done it, and people see it as a major thing. Of course, it was promoted by our development partners like the World Bank and other partners who feels that this is the way to go.
Right. Okay. Let's look at the beginning. Shortly after the takeover, there have been concerns around the investors we are talking about, those who came in actually.
Yes.
Looking at the rot, the deficiency or the deficit in terms of infrastructure, in terms of our ability to generate and distribute efficiently. Some expect the investors coming in will come in with a lot of funding to revive or
that's
to enhance.
Actually where I'm going.
That's right.
Yeah, because the government was so magnanimous to take such a decision. In fact, the entire sector was sold for around $3 billion. And over half of that was used to settle labor issues alone, to allow for the entry of private people, because the labor was resisting that. So the whole idea was to have a very transparent process where the most competent, most efficient, both from a technical perspective and from an investment perspective, will take ownership of these assets and develop them, and particularly reduce what we call the ATC and C losses, which is to rehabilitate the lines, to ensure there is effective metering, and to improve the revenue coming into the market. That was the basis upon which the companies were sold out to these private people. Unfortunately, somewhere along the line, well, depending on who you speak to, many people believe that the companies were sold out to the wrong team, who probably did not know or did not estimate the level of work, the level of investment that needs to happen. A lot of them probably do not see the bigger picture. So, and here we are with a sector fully privatized from the generation side, which means government has limited role or even control. So government hands are tight. And here we are also with the distribution side, which is also 60% sold out to the private sector, with the management under the contracts being assigned to the private sector. So also government hands are tight, and then the government was left with the transmission. Now, the expectation was that immediately this was done, this investment will come massively, And then these losses will continue to be reduced so that the system can become cheaper. The cost of kilowatt hour should be going cheaper as you reduce the losses, because the losses entails money you can't collect from customers because of theft of electricity, because of losses along the line, because of non-collection.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, sufficiently you talked about, because that has been the fundamental, if you like, challenge right from day one. The people who took over. You also talked about their expectations. Perhaps they are eager to go into the deal without necessarily looking at their own part of the bargain, their own obligations.
Yes.
And shortly after, we begin to hear about lamentations that they've taken over, facilities that are decayed, facilities that are inactive, facilities that requires, replacement, and there is no corresponding funds to do that. Now, what happened thereafter? Because you happen to be a critical stakeholder. What was the reaction from government? How is government looking at this? Because certainly it will affect the expectations, of Nigerians.
Yes, so that's the other side. I've just spoken about what is being viewed, the private sector side. But on the other hand, the private sector tends to believe or tends to argue that yes, they have not got into the details, but it's not their fault. But I think that is a discounted argument, if one should be honest, because the whole idea of this kind of transition is people believe the private sector is more efficient in terms of management. People believe the private sector is more accessible to financing. But we found ourselves in a situation where the private sector that are at the helm of affairs could not do the basic things that would have allowed for. Of course, there was this issue of tariffs that were not cost reflective and so on. But
even that was addressed later.
Yeah, it was addressed. Yeah, that's what I wanted to go. Government, to be fair, has been extremely generous in terms of always trying to be sometimes a bit late, but always trying to make sure that those issues that are raised are addressed. So far, I mean, hundreds of billions of naira, and in many instances, even you can say trillions, have been spent by government in trying to make it comfortable, make the environment clear for the private sector.
At some point, there was, I think, there was this intervention by the federal government talking about. I can't remember the figures now, but yes, there was a substantial amount of intervention, which was provided by the government to enable them, remain afloat.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's just what I was trying to point out. The government has done quite a lot from the first intervention of 213 billion
that's right.
to the second 701 billion naira to another 600 billion, and so on and so forth. And even as we speak, there's a lot of things. But don't forget, these are interventions that government view as extremely necessary, because the alternative would have been for the sector to actually stand still. So, but the point I think we should really focus on is where the problems are.
Yeah, we'll be talking about the problems. But then, let's look at what changed,
Yes.
from then and now. In terms of investment, you talked about what the government has been doing,
Yes.
and perhaps the private sector, they also must have also in a way, come up with some solutions to the problem. What has changed in terms of the infrastructure that we're talking about? Has there been any facelift? What has been invested in terms of improving the capacity now?
Yes, I think a major thing that has happened very recently under the current leadership of the Honorable Minister Aliu is insisting in ensuring the effectiveness of contract.
Thank you very much for staying with us. And now the conversation begins. I understand we may not likely get the factional chairman, if you like, of the Amin Wali camp for some reasons. But we can go on with Hadiza, who is already up there, to Zainab, who is up there to give us some perspectives. Zainab, it's good to have you once again on the platform. Zainab, Zainab, if you're there.
Yes, I am.
Right, okay. Please lead us into this crisis, Some would say, it's an internal party crisis, one too many in Kano. In most cases, you find out that party primaries, especially governorship primaries, always produce parallel, candidates. Why is it so?
Well, this is not supposed to have happened, but unfortunately it has. Because if we go back to history, those that are in charge now, being a law-abiding citizen, the present chairman, Shehu Sadi, has used the courts to get his position made as the state chairman. If we go back to history, the last election, I was a member of the caretaker committee. I was the woman leader of the Kano State PDP caretaker committee, while the state chairman now was the secretary then, led by Rabiu Suleiman Bichi. So we had the same experience now. So I'm surprised he's allowing this to continue, because I believe any member of the party should have the best interest of the party at heart. This shouldn't happen, but usually it does happen. Sometimes it does happen. And I believe it's just a power struggle. And I think we members of any party should have the best interests of the party at heart and not allow ourselves to put our parties through this. That's what is happening right now in Kano.
The genesis of this crisis, yes, a party primary was conducted, which produced the son of late former head of state Sani Abacha, that's Mohammed Abacha, and but subsequently, that was substituted by the party. Is it to say that the party was not, aware of the first primary, or it is not a party to it? Why did the party backtrack now and then recognize the Amin Wali instead of Mohammed Abacha, who was actually elected at that party primary?
The party has rules and regulations that it abides by for its congresses. And our party, one of the biggest party right now in Nigeria, among the major parties, has procedures for congresses. If you look at our electoral act or our electoral mandate, there is no congress that is valid unless the national sends an electoral committee. An electoral committee was sent to Kano. An electoral committee went and took their letter to INEC, to the police, to DSS, to every organ that was supposed to have been notified that they were going to do these congresses in Kano State. And they gave the venue, the date, and the time. And this Congress saw 7 of our gubernatorial candidates that did the primaries. So the fact that INEC said that it did not know this is surprising, because we have valid documents that were stamped by INEC for the electoral committee that was sent from the national body. And they conducted these primaries for these aspirants, 7 of them, Mohammed Abacha included, and he did not win that primary. Sadiq Wali won that primary, and it was witnessed by INEC. So we are surprised by this, by INEC saying that they do not recognize it. So that is why the electoral committee took back all the results back to the national, and that is why national submitted the names of Sadiq Wali as the duly elected gubernatorial candidate.
Yeah, but you did mention that it followed all the necessary procedures of party primaries in line with the new Electoral Act and so on. But then why is it? At what point does this change occur, and why did it happen? If actually we have a valid party primary that was conducted and a winner emerged.
It was not changed. The primaries that the Electoral Committee sent by the National Working Committee, the National Executive Committee to Kano State conducted primaries, and Sadiq Wali became the elected candidate. So it was not changed. There was nothing like any changing or that this name came up and then this one was changed. No. Our party is not playing games. Our party knows what it's doing.
But the point
Our party is coordinated.
Adiza, but the point is, the REC, for instance, sorry, Zainab, I said Adiza, the REC, that is the Resident Electoral Commissioner of INEC in Kano State, first, recognized the primary that produced Mohamed Abacha as the winner, and of course, the expectation is that INEC would also go in line with that primary because it was actually monitored by its own personnel who are on ground, to monitor the exercise. And the other primary you're talking about that produced Amin Wali, rather Sadiq Wali, is said to be, was not monitored, or INEC officials were not present at that primary. So why should that be taken as an authentic conduct when it doesn't, fit in? Get all the necessary requirements.
As I said, our party recognizes Sagagi as the chairman of PD Kano State because of a court order that has made that possible. However, the REC should considers him as the state chairman, as we all do. We are all law-abiding citizens, and we abide by the judgment of the court. However, any Congress that is done without an electoral committee from the party is considered null and void by the party. The Congress that was made emerged the winner of that Congress. I was present, and I know I saw INEC members there, and it was done in a free and fair mode, and all our aspirants were there. So to say that INEC said that Mohammed is the candidate, INEC cannot give the party its candidate. It can go and observe the primaries that were conducted, and INEC observed primaries that were conducted at Sani Abacha Stadium in Kano State, and I was present.
So what you are saying, if I understand, is that there wasn't anything wrong, with INEC accepting. Well, of course, INEC has no candidate, just like the national chairman. The national chairman, did mention, but then its own is actually preside over and, of course, watch how the primary is conducted. But what happened at I understand there was also a litigation, against your faction, against the faction of Sadiq Wali, which came out of as a result of the outcome of that primary. What are the issues? Why is it that the other faction of the party has to go to court?
It beats me as well. As I was saying, any member of a party who has the best interest of the party at heart does not take the party to court. It follows due process in trying to get its grievances tendered. And unfortunately, these people did not do that. They were supposed to, if they have any grievances, they're supposed to go to the party and settle that within the party amicably. But unfortunately, they committed an offense. By the constitution of the PDP, it is an offense for any member to take the party to court. So it's surprising why they should not accept what the party has made and done. As we all are aware, and I'm repeating myself, I'm beginning to sound like a broken record, that any Congress done without an electoral committee sent to it, considered null and void by the party. And the electoral committees that were sent to Kano conducted all the primaries in Kano State, and they went to INEC and took their letters there. It was endorsed by INEC. It was endorsed by all security agencies, and they were all present in all the congresses that were conducted. That is why all the names sent to the national by the electoral committee were accepted and were forwarded to INEC as duly elected candidates in Kano State. So as far as we are concerned, there is no matter of a faction. It's just unfortunately a few aggrieved persons that have decided to take the party to court, which is unconstitutional for the party, for any member of a party to do that. So this is basically the bottom line of these issues. There are offenses that you do towards a party that you're not supposed to do. And anybody, any executive member of the party should not even allow himself to do that.
Thank you very much for staying with us on Daily Politics. And today we're looking at Nigeria's intelligence community, so to speak. In the face of the rising or spike in security challenges in the country. Once again, thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Wilson Inalegu, former FCT Police Commissioner. We really appreciate your coming. Now, let's go straight into this conversation. Security of lives and property is the cardinal principle, objective of every government. And the intelligence agencies, have a very critical role to play in aiding, security agencies to deal with threats internally or externally. Now, over the years, Nigeria has been battling, from all fronts, so to speak, in respect of security issues. But there has been concerns with regards to our ability to utilize effectively these intelligence agencies in nipping these threats in the bud. Let me get your assessment first of what has, come over, what's the role, these agencies are playing in dealing with the security issues.
Well, the situation that we have at hand is very dire and very critical. Yes. Where you have incidents of kidnap, or abduction, banditry, attacks on prison, correctional centers, and the rest of it. And then you begin to ask, why is it so easy to breach all the security that is being provided? But that is not to say something is not being done. Okay. On the contrary, a lot is being done. But the one that escapes the sieve makes so much noise that it dwarfs whatever effort that has been made. You cannot, when you are dealing with the kind of situation we're dealing with, especially kidnapping and all that, I want to say that it's more than 70 or 80% intelligence work. That's right. Because it should be able to intercept. It should be able to disrupt before those threats manifest. That's right. And now people begin to ask, what is going on? But that is not to say something is not being done. Okay. And so we have a situation whereby, of course, we have the intelligence agencies that you have, mentioned. Though you didn't mention the police SIB. That's right. Yeah, that's another. But, which deals on crime intelligence. Intelligence. That's right. Now, once you get this information and you process them through the intelligence circle and become actionable intelligence, You begin to see. But I tell you that what has been happening right from the northeast down to northwest, north central, and the other places, that without intelligence, the situation could have been worse.
Okay.
And you begin to ask yourself, how come it's possible to arrest even after ransom had been collected, or some are planning? How come?
Okay, but yes, looking at the issues you just raised now, Nigerians will begin to wonder, at what level are we getting? I mean, we're not getting it right, because yes, intelligence gathering is critical, analyzing it, processing it, and making it actionable, and then sharing it. These are processes that have to be, we have to go through. In most cases, you find out that either the intelligence agencies would preempt or intercept and then raise concern or raise alarm, and thereafter the same threats manifest. So Nigerians are wondering, how does it happen? Why is it allowed to manifest?
Once you have a situation developing, and you have intelligence or information regarding it, you've got to understand that there are occasions that you are able to infiltrate, to get behind the enemy line, and you're able to know what is happening, and you can be so accurate. But some of this information that come, not all of them, some, because it's a developing thing. And these people are not stupid. Also, once they plan to have an attack, for example,
right.
Yes, they have agreed. The leader could go and adopt a different strategy. And so, even though you've given the intelligence, for example, Kuje prison is going to be attacked, what direction are they going to come from? What day? Unless you're able to get those precise things. And that's the work that the security intelligence agencies do on a continual basis. And so sometimes they get it intercepted. And sometimes these people working on certain instinct or intuition even stop the distance. But I can tell you for a fact that there are many attacks that are intercepted. And you begin to recover those, you recover weapons and all that. So in this day of technology, it plays a critical role. Even on the social media, there's a lot
of intelligence you can gather.
A lot you can gather. Even from the telephone and all the conversations and the rest of it. A lot of these things, but they come in quantum, they come in large, size that in seeing them.
Yes.
So most of the time, you get it right.
Okay.
Sometimes it may not be as accurate as you want it to. If it was accurate, then there is no work to do. So, that is why when we are talking about the heart and mind, it's a battle.
That's right. Okay. Let me get Temitope to talk on this, the issue you just raised. Is a preventive terrorism consultant. Temitope, if you're there, what Mr. Nalego is actually telling us is that beyond what we see, or, is beyond what people thought, processing and, of course, utilizing intelligence is much more than something you do, or just like on a day. But then the concern among Nigerians is that the frequency of attacks, perhaps, or the deteriorating security situation in the country, with high-profile attacks on institutions, and of course very critical facilities like the correctional centers, and even troops, on a rescue mission or on on operations, and it generates a lot of anxiety among Nigerians. Why is this happening despite the existence of this security, intelligence agencies? What do you have to say?
I think I have to agree that some intelligence are gathered. Not all are gathered. In terms of best practice around the world, my personal view, I think that Nigerian intelligence is still lacking. Based on my experience and what I've seen and where I've worked, I think the Nigerian intelligence is doing catch-up, and it should not be so. I think their recruitment strategy is one of their challenges, because they're recruiting within, they're using an 18th, 17th century approach in recruitment process. Because when I was in school in those days, I remember that they used to come into our school and pick the best students, or they do word of mouth and pick some people. But now you don't even know when they are recruiting. That's the problem. When you go to their website, you say we're not recruiting now. They're only recruiting their family members. I'm not saying that to diminish the fact that they need to know who they are recruiting, but when you don't have enough intelligence to know who you are recruiting, for example, if my kids want to become an intelligence officer, there is enough resource for the government to know what they have. We know what happened to the last head of Nigerian intelligence. He was summarily dismissed by the president because money was found with him. Meanwhile, I work in the intelligence cycle where on a regular basis, they are checking my accounts, they're checking who I engage with, they have those information. But in Nigeria, gathering those information is very difficult because everything is not interrelated. That's part of the biggest challenge for Nigerian security services, and they've not helped, because I think it's important, and I know my two brothers will agree with me, that many of us that work within the security industry, we have two particular traits, which is very peculiar to security practitioners.
Okay.
Two is that we don't like sharing intelligence. It's just a natural thing. But the Americans and the British have come to find that if you don't share intelligence, you will lose out. So that was one of the reasons why we had the July 7 bombing in the UK, because intelligence was not shared, and they gathered, the report came out, it became public knowledge that intelligence was not shared, and then they created a group to ensure that intelligence gathering was moving smoothly. The same thing with the 9/11, they realized, but as we speak, and my big brother there, that was the commissioner in Abuja, will let you know quite well, the others, that most of the things that have happened in Nigeria, you can't actually point out and say, this is where to find the report of the Yaya bombing. This is where to find the Kuje incident report. Nigerians do not share intelligence. And when you don't share intelligence, it's difficult to be able to deal with lessons learned, or to be able to use lessons learned to improve intelligence. That is where our biggest challenge is. Nigerian intelligence are not flexible. As we speak, and most of the viewers could go and do their search, CIA has a Twitter page, they have a Facebook page.
Thank you very much for staying with us. And now the conversation begins. Our talking point is 2023 and women inclusion. Let me start with Insola. As a politician, an active politician, and of course an activist. Women, from the fulcrum, of the society, some would say, over the years, women have been playing a very key role in Nigeria's democracy in the area of participation, especially in election.
Yes, we have.
But then there has been issues around, giving women opportunity to serve. I know women have been yearning for this 35% affirmative action, and what have you. The current administration, some would say, has done well. I don't know how you would describe, you would rate the government in terms of allowing women participation in governance. What's your assessment of women participation so far?
Well, first off, I would say that the numbers seem to be reducing, especially in elective positions. And as you rightly noted when you began introducing the topic, we have 11 women in the House of Representatives right now. That's 50% less than the number that was there in the previous assembly, because we used to have 22. And the number of women in the Senate has remained constant at 7. And it kind of gives you an insight into how difficult it is for women to actually win elections. And the ironic thing is that as at 2019, during the last election cycle, we had the highest number of women ever on the ballot due to the high number of political parties operating at that time. But then look at the number of women who actually eventually scaled through. It's really poor and it's very shameful. And then we look at appointed positions. We're still not at that 35% mark, which is where we're supposed to have, at the very least, for equitable representation. But thankfully, Nigerian women have been able to secure a judgment at the Federal High Court, securing 35% affirmative action in appointed positions at the federal level for women. That judgment was issued just a couple of months ago. It was sometime this year, just a couple of months ago. And we also have states that have implemented either executive orders or have signed either executive orders or laws, also safeguarding a minimum of 35% affirmative action. And I make the distinction between signing something and implementing it because, well, it's one thing to have a law, it's another thing for that policy to actually be implemented to the letter. So in APT, for instance, I know there's a 35% affirmative action clause embedded in the Gender and Equal Opportunity Bill for women's representation in appointed positions. In Ogun State, my governor also recently introduced an executive order to that effect. Kwara also passed a law, which the governor signed into law sometime around December or November last year. During the 16 days of activism, it was in November or early December last year. Also safeguarding 35% affirmative action in appointed positions. Now, there are a number of factors that militate against women's inclusion, especially through the ballot. In some areas, no matter how qualified a woman might be, they believe your place is in the kitchen, stay in the house. You shouldn't be dragging.
Talking about socio-cultural issues.
Yeah, socio-cultural issues. So in such areas, while we work on reorientation, it's also very key that leaders, say governors in those places, include women through appointments. And that's why, I keep saying that there's more than one pathway to power. Not everybody is going to run for office.
That's right.
Not everybody wants to run for office.
Okay.
But even in those positions that are not elective, it's important that we have laws that will ensure that women are properly included.
That's right. Okay, yeah, taking it from there, Hajia, she raised fundamental issues around, socio-cultural and of course perception and of course retention of, some of those ideas and norms, so to speak, especially when it comes to the northern part of the country. Finding women, especially in, aspiring for public offices, is very rare. But we're beginning to see that changing. For instance, just recently, a woman emerged as a gubernatorial candidate in Adamawa State, for instance. This is in addition to the number of women that are also given a running mate position. In Kaduna, consistently now, so to speak, we're beginning to see a woman occupying that seat. She is with the current administration. She's nominated again to run, for the joint ticket for the APC in the state as well. And then the Adamawa, it's a Gombe also recently. The governor also nominated a female. Are we responding, looking at the cultural issues, the traditional and religious issues, are we gradually responding, to the yearnings of women to be involved in politics?
Well, it is too gradual. It is very, 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 it's at a snail speed, considering the Northwest zone in particular, because we seem to focus more our attention on Islamic point of view. So, and it is a pity that a lot of our people are not Islamically literate. A woman is expected to read only from Alam Tara Kaifa to Nasi. Is enough for her to perform her prayers, and that's it.
Knowledge.
No, that's all.
But
that's
who
not
is
good
restricting
enough.
the women? They also go through the Islamic schools and some graduate.
I'm coming. It goes from home to home.
Okay.
In every environment, there's a couple, a father and a mother. And the siblings coming up there are treated differently. They are given different opportunities. No matter how a girl is intelligent, they will tell her areas she shouldn't even go. If a girl carried tools and started, you know, dissecting and putting to pieces something, they will say, this is for men, stop it. If they see a son carrying knife and cutting onions, and if you go to Saudi Arabia, all the hotels are run by men. All the chefs being paid large sums of money, and they're very comfortable. So if a son is blessed to be a chef from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so I mean, why should you deprive him of exhibiting that and then having a good life? And if a girl has an engineering gift, she wants to be an aeronautic engineer, an architect or civil engineer or mechanical engineer, why do you stop her? So this is where we have the problem.
So
and
where are we getting it wrong? Because is it about, you know, awareness, or is it about the teachings now, understanding the teachings?
No, I'm coming. You see, now teaching is a lot easier now, because with this modern technology, all this IT, you can browse and learn anything. I know young children that have learned Quran by memory through using their phones. But the point is, they're still under somebody. And who is the somebody? Who is in charge of a home? Is the man. And you know, men. Let's
But it is the same men that are giving women opportunity, picking them as running mates. Well,
but the percentage is so little that it's not worth mentioning. So you see, we still have a long way to go, but we have started. Because, I mean, I was picked as a running mate to Dr. Oji Uzwakalu on PPA platform.
So, yeah, classical example.
But how did it happen? It was by recommendation. I related with some people up there, and they saw my worth and thought I will fit in there, and introduced me to him when we don't even know each other. And that was how we started.
Well, we'll come back to talking about breaking barriers, because certainly sometimes it is not ideal to also sit back and say you are not giving opportunity.
Of course not. You have to work hard towards it.
That's right.
Indeed,
okay,
yes.
Juliet, she was talking about the reduction in terms of the number of women currently in governance. Let's do an assessment, because it is not just about going there. What impact are women making in terms of development, in terms of our governance process? A number of them are in the National Assembly, but we haven't heard them talking about substantially issues that affect women in particular. Today, you know, women are at the receiving end of whatever is happening. Yes, the hardship, you know, the insecurity you can talk about. It is women that are, you know, mostly at the receiving end. How would you assess the performance, if you like, or otherwise, or representation, you know, in terms of what women are doing at those places?
I would say over time it hasn't been laudable enough, and that's the reason why we are not hearing about what they are doing in their various positions, in their various committees. And I know for sure that women's performance actually affects a lot of women who are actually not in the forefront.